Hello, my name is Emily Robinson. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I have been in the field for 5, 6 years now, and today I am joined by Gary Schaefer. He is the author of book A Family Story of Addiction, Death, and Recovery. Gary, tell us a little bit about how this book came to be.
Well, Eric died from an overdose, fentanyl, in 2015. Shortly after that, I started writing for therapy, just a story. And over the years, it just started to add up. A friend heard about it, that somehow we got onto the conversation about Eric dying, and she goes, "Can I read it?" And I said, "Sure." So she read it, and she came back, and she says, "You should think about putting this into a book." And I said, "Oh, we'll see." I had a licensed addiction counselor read it, some other people familiar with addiction, which is the medical term for substance use disorder, and they said put it in a book. So I looked around to find someone to put in a book, and it ended up in a book.
And here we are.
Then here we are. Yep.
How does that feel to have your life put on paper and for anybody to be able to read that?
It's intimidating or scary because I'm exposing a lot of what we went through, the way I acted, the things I did wrong. I don't shed a shining light on me at the start, so it's a little bit scary. But when these people said it would help others, that's when I decided, hey, you know what? I need to let people understand what this world is like. So that's kind of where I went with this, and hopefully I'm reaching three groups of people. That's the parents who ain't in this world yet, those who are in this world, and hopefully what I went through, I did wrong, and what I did right helps them. But also the ones who have lost someone, not just a child, it could be a spouse, it could be someone, of what we did to heal. I mean, life will never be the same without Eric, but a lot of things happened that helped us heal once he died. Yeah.
It's a very raw, personal, very emotional book, but it's also very inspiring, and it's an excellent source of education for what real life might look like in the world of addiction.
Yes, I mean, I've had people read it. Some actually are not in the world of addiction or not really familiar. They said even from a parenting standpoint, they learned some stuff in it. But the people who understand it, they said it's very raw and honest, and some people had to put it down because it touched what they went through. But other people who have lost someone said they could not put the book down, and they just breezed on through it. So it can bring up a lot of emotions. People tell me they've cried, they've laughed, and they've cheered, and it's a very intense book though.
Yeah, in some way, shape, or form, you're touching somebody.
Yes, I've gotten quite a few responses. One of the most that I really feel good about was a lady who lost her sister 6 years ago, and she always felt, did our family do enough? Did we love her enough? All those guilt feelings that you go through. But once she read the book, it put her at peace that they did everything they could and they had no control over what was going to happen to her sister. So that is one that really makes me feel good, that I brought a little bit of peace to a person, that it's not your fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are many different topics in this book, including faith, recovery for you and the family, and not just for Eric, and among many other topics. Tell us a little bit about faith for you.
Faith is a tough one. I mean, we all say we have a faith, but until you're dealing with a critical issue like this, it really puts your faith to a test. It's kind of like you can get mad at God. Why is this happening to me? And I've heard other people say that. But I took some recovery programs that were faith-based, and when I understood better how things work with God, and he's the one who understands what that person needs to go through. And there's some tough things because you need patience. I remember somebody in a recovery group said, sometimes God needs to get certain people in place, and you got to have patience to, and that's the tough part, because we want things fixed right away, because we can't endure what is going on. And recovery for me and my wife was important, because our recovery is important to the person in addiction, because we can become a trigger, meaning that our behavior can put stress on them to trigger them to go back into using. I used to hound them, where you going to, meetings, who are you hanging with? But after a point in time, I just stayed away from that. I understood what he was going through. I tried to make things more functional for him, but we set boundaries for him. And you got to do that, because behavior does not change unless consequences are felt.
Yeah. So your recovery involved taking care of yourself, learning about addiction and substance use, and learning what Eric needed in that moment.
Right. In my book, I talk about 3 areas: faith, recovery for me, understanding addiction, because it does chemically change the brain. They are very dependent. At first, it's a choice. At one point in time, it's not a choice anymore. They need that drug or whatever it is to function on a daily basis. And it's amazing what they'll go through in order to get that.
Yeah. Are there any chapters in your book that you are specifically excited about for your readers to read?
Well, since we lost Eric, the chapters how we healed after his death, and that's why part of this is wearing my Beatles shirt. Things have happened in our life which we call God winks. Some people may use other terms, and it's amazing the signals we get from Eric or from God or whoever you want to say that things are all right up in heaven, and things have been happening in our life that give us comfort where he's at, and things are fine. Yeah.
A little hi from him, huh?
Yes, that's a good point. Yep, he says hi to us every so often and sets us straight.
Yes, we need that sometimes.
Yes.
So the cover of your book is a sun peeking through the clouds. Tell us a little bit about the meaning.
One of our biggest winks is a song by the Beatles written by George Harrison, Here Comes the Sun. And after Eric's death, we found in his phone the lyrics that George Harrison wrote for Here Comes the Sun. And his funeral, we used that song. And that song pops up not only in our lives, but people who were close to Eric explain how that song has come in to their life. And a perfect example is Eric died before his first nephew was born, and he was looking so forward to it. Rachel, our daughter, when she got in her car to go see our grandchild, her nephew, for the first time, she says when she turned it on, Here Comes the Sun was on the radio. So those are some of the things that, help us through it.
And it sounds like Eric was in a car with her to go.
Yes, that is what she says. She goes, I knew Eric was sitting right next to me when I went to go see him. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Very special. Yeah. Very special. Do you have any other thoughts or comments for your readers before they dive into your story?
Yeah, I think this, as I was saying before, they can. This book will help whatever phase you're in with addiction. You lost someone, you're living in that world now, or you don't want to enter that world. So I cover a lot of topics. I cover who Eric was. I cover our family life. I covered recovery for me, which is the 3 areas of faith, recovery, and understanding disease of addiction. And our little winks that we get. So I think there's a little bit for everybody in it.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very educational, very inspiring, very real. You get to learn a lot about just your family and who Eric was, and remember that he wasn't his addiction. He was so much more than that.
Right.
And
Yep.
that's how we definitely want to remember him. For
Yes.
Sure.
You will not recognize a person that you loved once they get into the phase of addiction. There's a term we use in my support groups. Addiction is stronger than your love. And it's hard to believe that you think you can love them. The term we called is loving them to death.
Yeah.
And it's, you need to understand addiction will override anything you try to do to help them.
Yeah. It's a long journey and it's a battle.
Yes.
But you have turned a tragedy into something educational and maybe gives some people hope in how to navigate this world of addiction and substance use.
I hope so, and that's why I'm really hoping people will take the chance to read my book and they'll learn a lot.
Yeah. If you have any questions that you would like us to address in future videos, please don't be afraid to comment them below. And please feel free to share, help advocate for individuals who are suffering through substance use or families who are going through this world of addiction. But Gary, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Emily. Bye now. Hello. I hope you enjoyed my first session with Emily describing briefly what my book is about. We plan on doing additional videos in the future. The next one will cover who Eric was, who he was as a child, as a teenage years. We will also have a session with a grief therapist to understand how to handle the grieving process with the loss and death of a loved one. I also plan on doing videos with a certified addiction counselor and addiction therapist to go over what substance use disorder is, the medical term for addiction. I will also have additional videos with people who have lived through this and how they've handled it. Hopefully what we share will help people work through this, but also I want to help prevent people from going down the path that we went down. As we say, it's a club you don't want to join. Thank you, and hopefully you will subscribe to my channel so you can get access to these videos. Thank you very much.